I would just say that the discretionary spending this country is embarked on, non-defense, has grown substantially. It grew 24% in the first 2 years of the president's tenure, and not counting the stimulus package. It was almost $1 trillion in addition to that. We are over $1 trillion in the other stimuluses we've had since. So we're spending a lot of money there. I would also note that food stamps is an entitlement. It's increased 300%. There's a lot of fraud, abuse, and waste in that program. Medicaid increased 37% in 3 years. Defense Department base budget's up 10%, while the war costs have been dropping over those years. Medicaid is a huge growing program. Medicaid, Social Security, Medicare are increasing at almost 8% a year, whereas our economic growth is projected to be about 3% over the next 10 years. That's why that's unsustainable. Would you agree, Mr. Panetta, that's an unsustainable path?
There's a lot of unsustainable paths.
It is an unsustainable path. So I guess what I would say to my colleagues, and I hope that we understand this, that food stamps, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security were exempted from any cuts under the sequester, not a dime. So the cuts fell dramatically on other discretionary and the defense. And defense hadn't had as much increase prior to these cuts taking place as the other discretionary did. So I think defense being a core function of government, this is a dangerous path for us to be in. We've got to get off of it. Mr. Secretary, we talk about the money shortfall. Admiral Mullen has said that threatens our national security inevitably, just as crunching it down as we did with. Do you agree that it does threaten our national security?
I do.
With regard to the sequester, and the situation we're in, the president's budget calls for almost $2 trillion in new taxes. As a reality, that's not going to happen. He also basically abandons the sequester and increases spending about $1.6 trillion over where we were with a sequester in place. So I'm worried that we may not reach a conclusion of this satisfactorily before you face a financial challenge of great significance. Do you have plans now to deal with the eventuality that perhaps an agreement won't be reached and you might have to go forward with the sequester reductions?
Senator, we have not made any plans with regards to sequester. The problem is this, that sequester has this kind of meat axe approach and formula for cuts across the board that, frankly, you can't do a hell of a lot of planning for. Secondly, it would truly be a disaster. I'd have to take the strategy I just presented to you and throw it out the window if sequester did happen. And for that reason, I urge the Congress to come together. We will work with you to try to develop some approach that can de-trigger sequester before it happens.
I will work with you on that. I believe that's what we have to do. We have multiple threats around the world. I just returned with a trip from Senator McCain, Blumenthal, Graham, and Hovind on Afghanistan, Egypt, Libya, Tunisia, Israel. And you never know what danger will break out next. There's a lot of tension in that area of the world. Then we've got our obligations in the Pacific. That's very significant. They're just things that a core defense budget, I believe, has to be maintained sufficient to meet the challenges we face. And I do believe that the remaining 5/6 of the budget almost half of it not touched at all with any reduction in spending, have got to be a little more than half. That is really just a challenge to us. We just can't bounce this budget on the back of the Defense Department. And if we break faith with those fabulous men and women who've been deployed repeatedly, away from their families, placing their lives at risk, if they see what we've done as disproportionately targeting them for the wasteful Washington spending that's been going on, we would have broken faith with the best people this country has produced. And I hope and pray somehow, Mr. Chairman, we can work this out. And I know you share those concerns.